Life around us feels solid, visible, and complex. Trees, animals, and humans seem complete and independent, yet if we continue to zoom in closer and closer, everything alive disappears into something incredibly small. Millions of these tiny units could fit on the tip of a pin. These units are called cells. Every organism that has ever lived, from the first microscopic life on early Earth to the human brain thinking at this very moment, exists because of cells. To understand life, evolution, and biology itself, we must first understand the cell. A cell is the smallest unit of life capable of performing all essential functions. A single cell can take in energy, maintain internal balance, respond to its environment, grow, and reproduce. Anything smaller than a cell is not considered alive. Cells are not merely building blocks stacked together to form organisms. Each cell is a complete self-sustaining living system. This realization marked a turning point in biological science. The story of cells began in the 17th century when Robert Hooke observed a thin slice of cork under a microscope. He noticed tiny box-like compartments that reminded him of rooms in a monastery, which he called cells. Although Hooke was observing dead plant tissue, later scientists went on to discover living cells, revealing that all life shares a common structural foundation. From these discoveries emerged the cell theory, which states that all living organisms are made of one or more cells, that the cell is the basic unit of life, and that all cells arise from pre-existing cells. These ideas became the backbone of modern biology. Before cells existed, Earth was dominated by chemistry alone, atoms forming molecules and molecules assembling into complex compounds. Cells introduced something entirely new: organization. By creating boundaries, controlling internal conditions, storing information, and carrying out metabolism, cells allowed life to persist and change over time. Evolution could only begin once cells appeared, because only cells could reproduce with variation and pass traits from one generation to the next. Despite their diversity, most cells share several basic features. Each cell is surrounded by a cell membrane, a thin and flexible barrier that separates the internal environment from the outside world and carefully controls what enters and leaves. Inside the membrane is the cytoplasm, a jelly-like substance where countless chemical reactions take place. Most importantly, cells contain genetic material in the form of DNA, which stores the instructions for building and maintaining the organism and enables heredity, the driving force of evolution. All cells on Earth can be divided into two major categories: prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. This distinction represents one of the most important evolutionary transitions in the history of life. Prokaryotic cells were the first to appear, emerging around 3.5 billion years ago. These cells include bacteria and archaea. They are small, lack a nucleus, and do not contain membrane-bound organelles. Their DNA floats freely within the cytoplasm. Although structurally simple, prokaryotic cells are remarkably resilient. They can survive extreme temperatures, intense radiation, and harsh chemical environments, and they reproduce rapidly, allowing them to adapt quickly. For billions of years, prokaryotes were the only form of life on Earth. However, prokaryotic cells had limitations. Without internal compartments, their energy production and functional complexity were restricted. To overcome these limits, evolution produced a revolutionary new type of cell. Around 2 billion years ago, eukaryotic cells appeared. These cells are larger and more complex, containing a true nucleus that houses DNA and a variety of specialized organelles surrounded by membranes. All animals, plants, fungi, and protists are made of eukaryotic cells. The presence of organelles transformed the cell into an efficient and highly organized system. The nucleus separated genetic control from the rest of the cell, improving regulation and stability. Mitochondria became specialized centers for energy production, generating far more energy than prokaryotic cells could manage. Endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi apparatus formed complex pathways for protein synthesis, modification, and transport, turning cells into microscopic factories. In plant cells, Chloroplasts enabled photosynthesis, allowing sunlight to be converted directly into chemical energy and supporting nearly all life on Earth. One of the most fascinating explanations for the origin of eukaryotic complexity is the endosymbiotic theory. According to this theory, ancient larger cells engulfed smaller free-living bacteria. Instead of digesting them, the two organisms formed a mutually beneficial relationship. Over time, these bacteria became permanent residents inside the cell, evolving into mitochondria and chloroplasts. This partnership dramatically increased the energy available to cells, enabling greater size, complexity, and speed of evolution. With the rise of eukaryotic cells, life took another major step forward: multicellularity. Cells began to specialize and divide labor among themselves. Some cells became muscle cells for movement, others became nerve cells for communication, and others formed protective or immune tissues. This specialization led to the formation of tissues, organs, and entire organ systems, giving rise to complex organisms capable of advanced behavior, intelligence, and consciousness. Even today, evolution continues at the cellular level. Mutations arise in DNA, cells adapt to changing environments, bacteria evolve resistance to antibiotics, and cancer emerges from uncontrolled cell division. Cells are not just relics of ancient history, they are dynamic systems, actively shaping life in the present. Every thought you think, every breath you take, and every movement you make is possible because trillions of cells are working together in perfect coordination. Cells transformed chemistry into biology, simplicity into complexity, and a lifeless planet into a living world. To understand life, evolution, and ourselves, we must first understand the cell.